How do you plan to increase Chinese language service and support in Howard County Public Schools?
Well, I think this is an area that the community needs to sit down and have a very detailed discussion. I feel Chinese is a critical world language that our students need for the future. I've always advocated for offerings in our curriculum, and I had the opportunity to visit China in 2014 with the College Board, and I visited 2 schools in Tianjin, and one school we partnered with and the students came to visit in 2015. And while I was there, I learned about other ways to incorporate Chinese language into our curriculum. Since it's such a challenging language to master, I've spoken in the past about the possibility of an immersion program. We're also, the board is looking into a concept school in Howard County, and possibly that would be an opportunity to have a immersion or a partial immersion component that could be within that school. I've seen talented Chinese language teachers within our system that go above and beyond and increase their own participation rates within their classes, and I think that's a great asset as well.
Recently, the River Hill High School canceled its 2017 Chinese AP for in-class teaching, which has a huge impact on the students taking the class and the students who plan to take the class in the future. Just for a reference, over 66% students taking Chinese AP classes there do not have Chinese cultural background. The school system is quickly moving to online teaching, even for world language class or with computerized teaching. How do you view this?
Yeah, it's very difficult. My personal preference remains, in classroom instruction. But in these difficult budget times, the system's looking at alternative ways to offer courses. I have observed the synchronous instruction and was very impressed by the teaching method and how the students interacted and performed. We want all students to have a language opportunity throughout the county, and some of the online course offerings and the synchronous digital offerings, our students have that opportunity. And due to their advanced digital skills, they become very comfortable. I observed it was a course at Reservoir. The instructor was actually at, I believe that time, Centennial High School, and the students at Reservoir were part of the synchronous program, and they were using their phones, iPads. We observed, on big screen too, the teacher and that sort of method, and they loved it, and they were, they're so digitally, they're even FaceTiming with other students within the class, and it was good, nice integration of technology and teaching.
So they can interact with each other?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So are you aware other languages being taught online, or just Chinese language they're trying to move?
Languages online, that's probably one of our more critical needs in terms of teachers, most of the schools offer the standard European languages, but I believe that's the only one that we've done so far. Maybe German, I'm not sure, I don't want to say for sure, but one of the critical languages that we've been trying to do with more the digital, based on, we may only have a few students at one school that are interested, several more at another school, and trying to balance those needs and do that sort of integrated digital synchronized classroom.
Okay.
And I know Ms. McKinley was going to follow up or meet with the group.
Yes, I sent an email to both the board and the school system, and the teachers said we'll have a meeting on September 6th,
In September, okay.
Tuesday, and 7:30 at the River Hill High School.
Okay.
So we'll talk about the issue. I hope in the future,
Okay.
when they make a decision, they will think about that. For example, they should inform the community before they make decisions. And it's kind of just top-down decision. There's no way to have a discussion before they make a final decision. So it's
Right.
kind of,
Better
very
communicate.
rushed decision.
We can always improve in better communication, absolutely.
What's your plan to increase the transparency for a budget plan and the general decision-making process?
Well, I think we need to have a year-long budget process that involves the community, and it starts way before the budget presentation itself. I want to see many stakeholders throughout the community involved. And when I first came on the board, we had, it was called What Counts in Education Forum. It was held in the fall before the superintendent prepared her budget, and there were about 250 people in the room from across the county, different communities, schools, business, ethnic groups, and it was opportunity to see all at once, everyone's priorities and, how thinking about ways to trying to implement them before the budget even comes out. I think that's a better way to start way ahead versus then trying to make many changes when, budget presentation comes out. There's a short period of time between, January and March where we have to, get our budget into the county executive. So I think having an earlier process that involves all the stakeholders in the fall is a better way to get people involved, be transparent.
There used to be a community committee to participate in the whole process. Now I know there's no community input before the budget comes out. I don't know how.
Well, there's lots of opportunities for people to give input. We used to have the operating budget review committee, but it wasn't bringing it, in terms of the structure of it, it wasn't bringing back the value that the board needed in terms of making decisions, in terms of people participating. They can email us. There were budget forums that the superintendent held to get feedback, and then also our regular public forum where people could come and speak to the board in person. So there's many opportunities for people to get in touch with us and let us know what their feelings were. But my experience with my representatives on the operating budget review committees, because each member of the board could submit a person to be on the committee, as well as there was union representation and some a few community random members. My representatives came back to me that it was very difficult to work with that operating budget review committee, and the information that was coming back to the board we weren't getting value. There were a few years where we were getting value, but the past few years we hadn't been getting the value that we wanted from the committee. So either looking at another type of committee, or looking at something similar to what I suggested about starting earlier and getting feedback from more people within the community, I think is a good way.
What's your opponent say? For example, you said it's difficult to work with with that committee. What's the reason it's so difficult to work with that committee to get some useful feedback to the board?
Oh, it wasn't. It was the committee itself that couldn't get to certain decisions that the board requested information. The board would ask them to look at these certain things, and the dynamics within the committee itself weren't getting to a point where they were giving good information to the board.
So you see the information feedback to the board is kind of useless.
Right. There was one year we had really good feedback. Might have been 2010 or 11, but a lot of it depends on the members at the time and the dynamics of the committee. But maybe we need to look at a better charter for a certain committee in terms of what the board wants to see back. Again, it's a short period of time that they have to look at. They would meet once a week, early in the morning, between January and I think for a month or so, and once the superintendent gave her report back. And so it's a short period of time to look at it in detail, get the information, and get good feedback back to the board. So I would like to see a more year-long process that involves a broader community of stakeholders and start earlier in the budget season.
How many schools and teachers have you visited in the past 12 months? How many parents or parents groups have you met in the past 12 months? In your assessment, what are their main concerns?
Well, every year, the boards has assignments in terms of clusters, so I've visited all my, cluster schools during the past year, as well as other ones based on other things that are going on in the community or activities or events. The board, schedules a meeting with many community groups. We regularly meet with the Community Advisory Council. That's the only committee that reports directly to the board. PTA Council, Council of Elders, Conexiones, Student Health Council meets annually, Special Education, and many others on an as-needed basis, and we're looking forward to the Asian community group to meet with us as well. Issues vary depending on what's going on in the community and sometimes based on individual groups' own interests. Usually resources, especially when I visit schools with the principals or teachers, resources are always a big issue. Course offerings, eliminating achievement gaps, reflections on certain policies like the grading policy, personnel changes, list goes on, but most importantly, I think everyone wants the best educational opportunities for their children in a safe and positive environment. So I think the concerns differ from school to school, even when we have the PTA council meetings and they have an opportunity to ask questions of the board. One school may have a specific concern and others, that's not an issue at their school. So, there are things that are systemic, within all the schools, but then also within individual schools, there are issues as well.
So this summer will be a little different because the county didn't approve the full budget request from HCPSS, and I heard a lot of parents or teachers complain because they're staff cutting or kind of hour cut. And did you hear anything from the community about this issue during the summer?
Here and there, we've heard different things from the community. Things have been brought up to the central office. I know it's difficult, and this isn't the first time we've had to do this. There's been years in the past, even when my kids, were at a very young age, even before I was on the board. I remember in difficult budget times, things had to be cut. One of the things that they're doing is, certainly certain groups, it's been across the board, but priorities are at-risk groups in terms of making sure special education has all their resources that they need. If there's a particular item it's coming that a teacher really thinks that they need, or the school thinks that they need, it's coming to central office to review, and there's a process in place that if something that they think is really critical, then they'll come to the central office for review and see if anything that can be done, any accommodations, look for other places where they could pull the money.
So one follow-up question. The budget for the next year actually is around 4% increase over the last year. So, but the HCPSS still said that's not enough. How much increase annually do you expect for the school budget?
Well, one of the things that it's not just an increase that you have to look at. Over the past 4 or 5 years, we've gradually taken on a bigger burden of the state pension costs, and now we're at the full amount in terms of it's 17 million or more a year that we've absorbed in terms of the pension costs. The other issue that I think was misunderstood during the whole budget process was what we negotiated in terms of teacher salaries in 2014-15. That salary started mid-year, and then the full amount came forward for this year. So that was an additional 12 million that hadn't been in the budget in the past. And then plus what we negotiated for this upcoming year with the union, which was another, several tens of thousands or millions. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but another additional $12 to $20 million in salaries for the upcoming year. So that set the base very high. So it wasn't just, an additional, 4% over last year's. There's additional monies that we really needed in terms of salaries and benefits for our teachers.
Yeah, based on what we've heard is that the increase the school system asked for is much bigger than previous years. And what approved by the county, the increase is about same as previous years. So,
What we asked for and what we got, that's a big difference. We did a lot of different things that the board wanted to see. We wanted to expand the elementary school model. We had put in, to expand world languages over the next 5 years. We wanted a coordinator of diversity and inclusion. We wanted more, more co-teaching models or, different positions that we wanted to see. So yeah, what we asked for from the county was much more than in the past, because we felt these needs were critical. We didn't get what we needed. We cut most of that out. We're, back to the bare minimum in terms of trying to meet our obligations to, teachers and their salaries. But yeah, so it is very tight this year.
yeah, I've heard from parents that each school was asked to cut some personnel staff to accommodate the budget. And the class size is increasing because of this.
Yeah, I didn't vote for the class size. Across the board, their staff was at, I think, 0.5 positions. Each school was asked to, cut by. Where there's a freeze right now in terms of hiring for positions that can become available. And we've done this in the past as well. Each position, when someone leaves a position, we look at the position and say, is it a critical need, yes or no? And or certainly if someone does leave right now and it is a critical need, then they'll fill that position. But each position is being looked at very critically in terms of its need. And I don't support larger class size. I think we need to find other ways in terms of making sure that obligations and trying to balance our needs.
Okay, so next question. Did I skip some?
10.
No.
Question 10.
Oh, I did. I've
we
already
did
answered
10.
this. Yeah. Move to 11. Yeah, 11. There are many Asian students and Latino students in our school systems. Some schools have high proportion of Asian students and some have high proportion of Latino students. Outside school time, their foods are primarily the food associated with their culture. Do you know whether school meals have these options? What would you do if the meals do not have such options?
There have been many new initiatives coming from the food service staff over the past few years. We have a new director of food service in the past few years, and he's been amazing. He has a good team of grant writers and looking for other opportunities to change our menu for the better. He's worked with the federal and nutritional guidelines, and there's been grant opportunities for Rethink Lunch offerings, which are healthier options for fruit and salad bars at the elementary schools. Instituted the NutriSlice menu on the website that showcases the menu in different languages. You can see the menu in Chinese. And you can also filter it for dietary needs, gluten-free, allergies, dairy-free. There have been a few high schools that I know of, I can't know the specifics, but I know we've talked about it before, that have looked at, ethnic options and, Asian options. And I think what this is a good opportunity to really hear the student voice and get the students involved and what choices they would like to have. I think they would have good options for our menu and reflect the diversity of our student population. So I think with our new student board member, the great person we have in the food and nutrition services and students in general, getting them involved, and I think we can certainly look at that in the future in terms of more options, ethnic options.
So we take a short break.
Yeah, sure.